Good evening, everyone. Hello, welcome to my presentation tonight, Mastery in Digital Wealth. What I'd first like to say, I'm not going to show you anything tonight, so you can relax, sit down and write and get a pen and paper so you can write down any questions you have throughout this presentation, and we'll go through the questions at the very end. So today we're going to talk about making sense of the new financial era so we can steward wealth with wisdom. And before we start, I'm going to just tell you little bit about myself. My name is Carol Simon. I am an ACCA qualified accountant. Have worked in blue chip banks for over 30 years. I've worked for ING Bearings. I have worked for RBS and for JP Morgan Goldman Sachs. And my last role was with the British Business Bank. I left my corporate job in October 22, and I'm now full time in crypto. Why did I leave? That's because it was becoming a very restrictive and very controlled environment. And I wasn't allowed, well, no one in my environment, no one was allowed to do a paid or non-paid role outside of the company without declaring it to the compliance team, and they then had to approve it. And I actually got caught out in 2019 doing a side hustle, and um, they chose not to approve it. So then I had to go through a disciplinary hearing. And so I decided that corporate life is no longer for me. It's just too restrictive and it puts a cap on my earnings. And so I was able to join a project that allowed me to leave in October 22. And as a result of that project, am full time in this space, and I now educate and teach people how to build long term wealth on autopilot. And before I go into detail, I of course have to go through this disclaimer. So first of all, I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not regulated by the FCA. And the reality is I don't need to be because I am not here to give financial advice. I'm not here to give investment advice or legal advice. Everything I share today is for education and information purposes only. Any examples I go through today or mention today are not recommendations to buy or to sell or to invest. We as adults, we are all responsible for your own decisions. Always do your own research, and if needed, do speak to a qualified financial advisor. And the golden rule for any investment, whether it's crypto, whether it's mainstream, never invest more than you can afford to lose. Okay, next slide. So what we will cover today, we're going to cover the journey of money from fiat and how that's led to inflation. We're going to talk about the evolution of technology and how that led to blockchain. We're going to cover the crashes within the fiat world and quantitative easing and why Bitcoin came about. We're then going to cover digital money and how that relates to crypto. Next on the agenda is DeFi, which is the decentralized finance and the benefits of DeFi. And we're going to talk about control. Who controls your money? Is it custodial versus non-custodial? And then we're going to cover liquidity. Is there a real world use for cryptocurrency? And finally, there'll be an invitation. If you're curious and you want to know what next steps are, I'll also give you an opportunity to do that as well. So again, I'll just do this slide first. So we're just going to quickly do a whistle stop tour about the story of money. I'm sure most people know that. So in the very, very early days, when people purchased goods and services, they exchanged that for grain and sometimes physical gold. Back in the early days, obviously that all changed over time, and I don't know the date, but at some point we moved to fiat currency, and in the early days, fiat was backed by physical gold, and the US dollar would be the standard, the gold standard, and that was backed by physical gold, and that all changed after the war. And in 1971, President Nixon removed the gold standard, and that was called the Bretton Woods Agreement, and that was meant to be a temporary situation, but it ended up being totally a permanent fixture. And as a result of that gold standard being removed and the fiat currency no longer being linked to gold, then inflation became a bigger thing than what it was and became a thing. So and we all know that if whatever you had in 1980, for example, if you wanted to buy a loaf of bread, you can see on the picture on the right hand side, a pound could buy you quite a lot of loaves of bread. Right now, 2025, well, 2026 actually. I did this slide last year, so I should have updated it. But anyway, 2026 or even last year, 2025, you could only just about get not even a loaf of bread, I don't think these days. You can probably get half a loaf of bread for £1. So we can see that inflation, our fiat money, is losing value every single day. And so that's why many people are moving away from fiat, because your purchasing power is reducing day by day. Before I move into this slide, I want to do one more poll, and then I'm going to go into the detail. So the next poll I want to do is here we go, poll number 2. Here we go, this poll here. Sorry, not that poll, mistake. So go back again. Slide number, here we go. So here's my second poll. So I want to know, how would you describe your current crypto knowledge? Are you totally new to this? Do you know a little bit? You've dabbled a bit, or you're quietly confident? Where do you see yourself in that list of options? Can you see the poll by any chance?
No, I can't. Sorry, Carol.
Okay,
No.
okay.
No, we can't.
Okay, let me just launch it. It's not launching. Let's try again. Let's try again. It's not launching. I did test this earlier. I'm not quite sure why it's not launching. Oh, so annoyed. Right. Let me see why. Let me just try one more time. If not, I shall just move on. Try again. Okay. Here we go. Okay, can you see this poll now? Can you see the poll now? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Okay. So the question is, how would you describe your current crypto knowledge? Are you totally new? Do you know a little bit? Have you dabbled previously, or dabbling right now even? Or are you quietly confident and quite experienced in the space? Just give you a few moments to answer. So far, we've got half, 57% have answered so far. Let's try and get to 75 again. So I can see at the moment that most people are totally new. So that's okay. It's good to know, because it's good to know how to gauge this presentation. All right, so we've got a very similar number have replied since last time. Oh, actually more, 80%. Keep going. Are there any more before I share the results? Okay, so I'm going to share the results. So you can see here, so most people on this call are totally new. So that's good. So hopefully this will be helpful. And a few people know a little bit. There are a couple who are quietly confident, and a couple that have dabbled. So it's good to know. So it's a good mix, but most people here are totally new. So that's good to know as well. Thank you. So I'm going to talk about. We're going to go into that shortly. So before I go into that, I just want to talk about when the system crashed. So we all know, but most of us here are of the age. Remember 1987? I do. I was working in one of the banks when that happened. In 1987. Sorry, I wasn't that old. In 1987, hadn't long left university, but I was working in the finance field, so I was very much aware of the crash in 1987. And I think one of that was Barings Bank, and that's one of the banks I was recruited to work for just after that initial crash, actually, when Lehman Brothers went down. No, is that the right time? I'm getting confused between all of them. But anyway, I was around for both of them. So 1987, we had the first crash, and then 2008, we had another global crash. And that proved that the current system was fragile. And that's when the government began to introduce quantitative easing, which means they were printing just endless printing of fiat currency. And that is one of the reasons why we've seen inflation increase so much, or why we see our purchasing power reduced by so much, because there is a limitless printing of fiat currency, which causes it to lose value, because it's not a scarce commodity. So that what and because of that, that's partly why Bitcoin was born. So Bitcoin was born out of the because there's an anonymous person who we know, or who people in the space know as Satoshi Nakamoto. We don't know who that person is, but it's an unknown figure. And he wrote the root problem with conventional currency is that all the trust that's required, because we're required to trust in governments and we're required to trust in banks as other people. And this is something that this person, an honest person, didn't like. So it inspired them to create a money system that wasn't controlled by governments. And that money system that was born was Bitcoin. That was in 2009. So Bitcoin launched in 2009 as digital scarce money. There's only 21 million Bitcoin available. So there isn't any more than that, and there can never ever be more than 21 million. But it's not, but they haven't all been released into the sort of like into the what word can I use? They're not all available for use yet, basically. They're mined over a period of time. I think we're close to 21 million. We're around about 19.2 or 3 million that's now been released through mining. But I think there's another because every 4 years there's what they call a halving cycle, which means the amount of Bitcoin that's released halves every 4 years. So there'll be like another five, six, seven. I just can't remember the total, the precise number of years. But there's still quite a few years left, even though there's only just over 2 million, sorry, of Bitcoin still yet to be released. Then that will still take quite a period of time because of the way the mining process works. But right now, there's about 19.5 million Bitcoin tokens that are out there within people's wallets that people are using, or some people have probably lost because they've lost access to their assets. But that's all out there. And that all started in 2009. So it's been around now for about 16 years as the godfather of cryptocurrency. But in saying that, even though Bitcoin is the first digital currency, even though we deal every single day with our finances, back in the day, everyone did everything in cash. But these days, money has become digital without us even noticing. Because today, 90% of our money, what you see in the bank, exists only as numbers on a screen. When you send money from me or to you or to your friend or to your family, that's all done digitally through bank transfers, through your Apple Pay or PayPal, whatever facility you use. That's all done through. It's not done through paper anymore. It's all done digitally. Even when banks move money, there's no actual physical cash moving. It's all based on data entries on a computer. And so this shift actually prepares everyone. It's not just cryptocurrency that's become digital, but I'm sure some of us have heard of the central banks want to create their own digital currency. So that is the way forward. The digital world is what we're seeing, and so we don't want to be left behind, and we can actually take advantage now before these governments introduce their own competing currencies. So I just wanted to make that. I'm sure most of us are aware of that. And alongside the evolution of fiat to digital currency, we also see the evolution of technology. Web one, by the way, is the earliest version of the internet. So some of us, if we're old enough, will remember the computers that looked just like this. I remember those computers, and that's when the internet first came out, and that allowed us to read information only. So there's no interaction. We could just see information on the screen, and we would read that. That was the earliest version. That's called Web 1. Now, since then, there's been evolution. So now we have Web 2. And most of us now are familiar with Web 2 because that's what you see when you go on social media. We can interact with platforms. So we've got Google, we've got Facebook. This is all Web 2. So we can read and we can write. And that started in the 2000s. But the current or the latest version, I guess, is Web 3. And this is a lot more sophisticated. And this is where we can actually read, we can interact, we can write, but we can also own. And that's where blockchain comes into the arena. So with blockchain now, we're not just reading and writing, but we can actually own the infrastructure that we are reading and writing. And that's where cryptocurrency comes into play. Because if you own the cryptocurrency, you then actually own part of the infrastructure as well. So those of us who own Bitcoin, we actually own part of the Bitcoin blockchain. Those of us who own Ethereum, for those who've heard of Ethereum, we actually own part of the Ethereum blockchain. And there are many blockchains out there, And those who choose to own the coin, they actually own part of that blockchain. And that's why you have the ability to read, to write, and to own. Hope that's making sense to everyone so far. Just give me a thumbs up with the reaction so I know I'm not losing you. If I'm losing you, let me know. Any thumbs up? Are you with me so far? Anyone with me so far? You can shout out a yes if you're with me, so I know. Everyone's quiet. I'm going to assume everyone's with me because I'm not getting a response. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. One person. Thank you, Andrew. Okay. So we're going to go and I'm going to define cryptocurrency now. So we hopefully we've come to the point where we realize that cryptocurrency isn't alien. But before we do that, I'm going to go to another poll again. This is a penultimate poll. And let's hope I can get it right first time. This time round. Let's go back to this. So I'm going to go to this poll now. Right. I'm going to go to this poll. So this poll is just want to gauge what people think when you hear crypto, the word crypto. What's your first thought? Do you feel it's risky? Do you feel it's confusing? Do you feel it's exciting, or you're still not sure? Let me know in the vote, please. Okay, we've got 64%. So we're going to try and get up to 75 like last time, or a bit more if we can. A few more people to respond if they are able to. We get in there. 71%. Almost there. Okay, I'm going to stop the poll because there's no more responses. Okay. Oh, we've got one. Yeah, no. Got a couple more coming in late. Okay, any more? Is that it? Right, okay. So I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share the results. So I can see from here that most people are on the risky side, think it's risky or confusing, and a few think it's exciting. I'm one of those who thinks it's exciting, but I can understand why others will think it's risky and why it's confusing. So I'm hopefully going to remove some of that fear, I guess, of risk or confusion and make it clearer as we go through this next slide. So what is cryptocurrency? So cryptocurrency is a digital form of money. And the difference between this form of money compared to our fiat, which is also digital these days, is because cryptocurrency is secured by mathematics. We don't have to understand that, it's just code, different code, computer codes that define different cryptocurrencies. But it's just understanding that it's not, even though our fiat is digital, what makes it cryptocurrency is that it's designed, it's secured by maths, and that's what makes it cryptocurrency. And the second thing about cryptocurrency, it runs on a blockchain, and a blockchain is just a ledger. It's a public ledger, so everyone can access that ledger. So I'm an accountant, so I'm familiar with ledgers. So back in the olden days, where they used to record, back in the olden days, accountant before computers, accountants would do their books on a ledger. There'd be a long book with lots of columns and rows. And that was the original ledger where they would record transactions. And then obviously when we came to computers, we start using those. But the blockchain is like the next level. So basically every record, every transaction is recorded electronically within a block. And every time that, as each transaction is recorded, the block gets full. Once the block is full, that gets parked, and then another block is created, and then more transactions are generated and recorded within that block. And the reason why it's called a blockchain because the blocks are attached one next to the other. When a block is completed, then that is stored. That information is stored and can't be changed. They say it's immutable; it cannot be changed, and it's also transparent. So anyone and everyone, by the way, there's no elite system. Anyone who knows how to access that blockchain can have a look at every transaction going back to the year dot. As an example, Bitcoin was created in 2009. Every single transaction that's happened on Bitcoin, you and I and anybody can go into the Bitcoin Explorer which is blockchain.com, and you'll be able to see every transaction that's happened, who sent what to, who sent money or who sent coins from A to B. But what you won't see is people's names, because blockchain doesn't contain names. It just has what they call a wallet address. So it's a series of numbers and letters. And you'll be able to see that this wallet, which has this series of numbers and letters, has sent money to this wallet, which has this series of numbers and letters. And you'll be able to see all those transactions going back to 2009, which is why sometimes you might see reported that this wallet has sent 50,000 Bitcoin to somewhere, or this wallet hasn't been used for how many years. That's how they know, because people can see all this information on a blockchain. So it's a public, transparent system that no one can cheat. And that's different to you and I, our bank account, for example. We can see our own bank account, but you can't see everyone else's bank account because it's kept elsewhere. So that is available to you only, but not a public, transparent system for everyone else to see. That's the difference with blockchain and everything else. Also with blockchain, when you're sending funds from A to B or sending value from A to B, there's no middleman involved. So when we use our bank account, so we're sending money to anyone, the bank, there is a bank in the middle that has to do, does its security checks. So sometimes you're sending money, it gets blocked because there's a middleman, and they might ask you questions. So you don't have that freedom just to send value anywhere and to anyone. But with cryptocurrency and with blockchain, you do have that freedom. There's no one that's validating. There's no person that's validating your transaction. It happens through the blockchain mechanism. So that is another benefit of blockchain. Also, I mentioned previously, because of the crash and the quantitative easing, fiat money is just growing every single day and losing value. But with cryptocurrency, there's a limited supply. So there's scarcity, just like gold, which is why it holds its value. I must caveat that, by the way, there are thousands of cryptocurrencies, thousands and thousands of them, but not all of them have value. So Bitcoin does. That's one of the, obviously number one, and Ethereum, and there are others that do. But people are creating cryptocurrencies all the time, but they don't all have value. So it's also important to know how to determine whether a coin has value or not. But we won't go into that today. But just to let you know that if you're looking at a genuine coin and looking at the top 20, top 30, even the top 400, most of those will have a limited supply, and that creates scarcity, and that also provides value as well. And also, cryptocurrency can be used for payments, for savings, and for earning rewards through DeFi. DeFi stands for decentralized finance. I'm going to look into that in a bit more detail further on. And as I said earlier on, just want to put as a caveat here, it's really important to note that not all cryptocurrencies have real value. So I'm sure maybe some of us have heard of Dogecoin and coins like that. They're known as meme tokens, and they only create value because of their community, but they don't have the same kind of value as, say, Bitcoin or Ethereum, that has what I would call a real world use. So it's worth being aware of that as well. So I'm going to move on to my next slide. Again, I have to have a disclaimer here because there are a lot of people on this call who are new to cryptocurrency. So this is important for me to make this statement. So cryptocurrency, I'm sure most of us know, is not currently regulated in the same way as traditional finance. That's the first point I want to make. But in saying that, although it's not regulated, does not mean it's illegal. But what it means is that rules are still evolving. And the reality is that some parts of cryptocurrency, like in the last couple of years, actually, some regulations have come into play that didn't exist 3-4 years ago. And rules have changed. So, for example, if you wanted to register on a cryptocurrency exchange 3 years ago, you could do that, no problem. You could withdraw any amount of money from your bank account and send it to a crypto exchange and buy crypto, and there was no intervention. These days, when you try and do that, there's a lot of intervention. So there is currently so rules are evolving. Also, if you want to register on an exchange today, for example, you have to complete a cryptocurrency questionnaire before they allow you to even move crypto. That rule wasn't in place maybe a year and a half ago. So there are rules coming into place. It's happening slowly, and that normally happens as adoption grows. And we're going to look at some stories of how regulation comes into play shortly. But I'm going to go through this list first of all. So crypto is legally owned, it's legally traded, and it's used in many countries around the world. and some even have that as their the word has disappeared out of my head, but as their as their something currency. Like I know Venezuela and a few other countries as well have Bitcoin as their reserve currency. Yeah, as a reserve currency. And I know the US is also looking at the moment with Trump in charge. Anyway, they're looking to have America as a crypto capital of the world. So we shall see. But it is a legally it is a legal asset. So there's nothing illegal about it, even though it's not regulated. That's really important to know that. And major banks, corporations, and governments now use and invest in blockchain technology. So that's also used within the mainstream. You might not be aware of that. I'm going to show you a slide that might shock you, but we'll see that shortly. And as I said before, as we know that as with emerging technologies, there are risks and opportunities. So that's why we're having this session today to educate, because only with education can you then make informed decisions and make decisions that are best for you. So I just want to talk about regulation now briefly. So I'm going to go through different sectors. So banking, for example, regulation appeared in the 1800s and 1900s, and more regulation was increased over time, of course. But banking had been around for many years before regulation came into play. Similarly, with the stock markets, that also had been around for centuries, and regulation only came about in the early 1900s after there were several major crashes. Insurance, again, had been around for centuries, and regulation came around in the 1800s and 1900s. Estate agents, by the way, they always used to have a bad name in the early 1990s, from what I recall anyway, and they were unregulated for a very long period of time. But of course, it was never illegal to purchase a home. There was no regulation. Regulation came around in the 1970s to the 1990s. Credit cards, regulation didn't happen until the 1970s. And the last of these is internet and e-commerce. So that's things like Amazon and Facebook and so on. Regulation for that happened in the 1990s to the 2000s. So what you can see here, by the way, is that regulation doesn't happen overnight. So here I've got a summary of all the various different industry sectors. So we can see that with cryptocurrency, which first appeared in 2009, the regulation is still evolving. And there are lots of governments now that are talking about the regulation, and they're working with crypto experts to work out how best to regulate it, because it's not a straightforward industry. It is quite complex. So these things do take time. And so it's worth noting that and understanding why that is the case. Right, so a little bit of interaction, by the way, if you don't mind. So this here is just a screenshot of many companies that are already using blockchain. So I'm sure that you recognize many on here. Do anyone want to shout out what they can see on here, companies that they recognize? So you can see that it's not just for the geeks, for those who are.
Reason, HSBC.
Yep. Any more?
Shell.
Yeah. Any more?
Yeah. JLL.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know who are they? I don't know who they are, but okay.
I think they're property estate people.
All right. Yeah.
Big offices in the city.
Right. Okay. I've never heard of them, but yes, Westfield as well on here. Delta, British Airways. So basically, blockchain is used from companies from banks and finance, supply chain, healthcare, insurance, energy, real estate, trade, government. In IoT, what does that stand for? I'm not sure what that stands for. And travel. But basically, across all the various many sectors of business, they already are using blockchain. They're using it for supply chain. They're using it for because it's transparent and because data can't be changed. I know that I do know that when you're buying a home now, the land registry, that's moving on to blockchain because it's more secure, and there's a lot more you can do with that. For example, when you get your deeds, rather than having to have a piece of paper, you can have an NFT instead. I'm not sure whether people here know what an NFT is, but it's a non-fungible token, and that non-fungible token is stored on the blockchain. So it's not just about cryptocurrency, i.e. Bitcoin and Ethereum and coins. It's also about real world use. So you can use blockchain for many administrative tasks. And because you can't lose an NFT, but you can lose a piece of paper. So people are moving away from paper now. They're moving on to blockchain technology, which is with the advance of technology and so on. It's something that that business, it makes sense for business, put it that way. So I'm sure a lot of you might be surprised by some of the names you see on here and probably didn't expect these companies to be in the blockchain space, but they are and have been for a while. And the reason why blockchain brought transparency, it brings security, and it also brings decentralized ownership, removing the need for middlemen. And I know we're in the workplace, lots of jobs that did exist before, they're changing because of the introduction of blockchain and also AI as well alongside it. And blockchain and AI do work together in some instances, and we're going to cover some of that later. But because we have new systems, new technology that that can take the place of human beings, not always favorably, I guess, but it does happen. Then there are reasons for it, because it brings all these extra benefits such as transparency, security, and also removes need for middlemen, and it means that you can have direct access to information rather than having to go through a third party. So that's why it's building momentum as we move through the years, or the weeks, or the months, whatever. So it's interesting as well to note that what certain corporations said when Bitcoin first came out, because Bitcoin was seen as a threat, particularly by big business. So the person you see in this picture here is Jamie Dimon, who was the head of JP Morgan, I think he still is. And his early headlines, he claimed that Bitcoin was a scam or worthless. And so all the comments you see on that slide there, Goldman Sachs also said it's a speculative bubble, and PayPal said it was a scam. And most of the public believed the narrative, and that's what happened when you believe. Well, not always, but the media, what you see and you read and see in the media from the wealthy, they say it's not always what they say, it's what they do. So this is what they said back then, but what are they saying now? So now they've changed their tune because they know that they can't stop. It's happened. It's already happening. You can't stop the what do you call it? The wheel. It's already in motion. So now, so Morgan Stanley said a while ago, Bitcoin's real value could be zero. Now they're saying Morgan Stanley has become the first big US bank to offer its wealthy clients access to Bitcoin funds. JP Morgan said that Bitcoin is a fraud that will blow up. Now JP Morgan says investors could make Bitcoin 1% of portfolios. Goldman Sachs gave 5 reasons why Bitcoin is not an asset class. Now Goldman Sachs restarts their cryptocurrency desk amid Bitcoin boom. And so all these CEOs who are trying to convince the general public that cryptocurrency was a scam, they've all jumped on the bandwagon and are lining their pockets. So it just says a lot about what's possible, put it that way. So, and I just wanted to highlight the PayPal as well. So I've got a PayPal account, and now you have the ability to actually buy crypto in your PayPal account. And the CEO of PayPal, Bill Harris, in April 27th, 2018, he said Bitcoin is the biggest scam in history. And then 3 years later, 2021, PayPal now enables users to pay with cryptocurrencies at checkout. So you can see the comment here says, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. And that's basically said it all. So that's quite an interesting turnaround. So now we're going to look at how the wealthy build wealth. So they follow the money wave. So we are now in the digital wave. We are now in the digital wave, and the wealthy accumulate assets. They then leverage them to create cash flow. And when I'm talking about assets here, I mean this happens across many asset classes, but I'm just going to focus here on the crypto asset class. And I wanted just to highlight some stats here, which will show you where we are today, as opposed to previously that property is still a good asset class to get involved in, of course. I'm not here as a financial advisor. There are many asset classes that people do make money in, but it's interesting to note that right now, if you look at these stats, you can see where a lot of where the wealth is right now. So, and these are stats that I've researched. So 83% of millennial millionaires, so these are young folk who are not afraid of tech. And I'm not a young folk, somewhat, well, I can still call myself young, but I'm not as young as some of these millennials. But we're never too old to jump on the bandwagon, because I'm in my 50s, hitting the 6th floor very, very soon. 83% of millennial millionaires own cryptocurrency. That's a big number. It's 80%. It's massive. That's a big number. Over 80% of young millionaires own cryptocurrency. So they're all owning cryptocurrency for a reason. And then there's a 2021 Motley Fool survey that indicated that 68% of high net worth individuals owned cryptocurrency. And 81% of high net worth individuals who already own cryptocurrency are likely to buy more in the next year. So all these high net worth individuals and millionaires, they must know something that we don't know. And sometimes we get left behind because we're missing out. We don't, this hasn't been revealed to us. We don't know what we're missing out until you know. So now you know, I guess. So these millennial millionaires, these young millionaires, these high net worth individuals, they obviously know that we're currently now in the era of digital wealth, which is why they're accumulating cryptocurrency. And there's definitely benefits in this space. So within blockchain technology, because we've got an advance in technology and advances in AI, and blockchain technology, they use code, which is called predefined code, and it's known as smart contracts. And these smart contracts are predefined or pre-coded that can allow you to accumulate, they can allow you to automate and to accelerate your wealth, building your wealth. And it's all done through smart contracts. So you yourself don't have to be a tech person necessarily. You do have to set up the system to allow you to do that. But once your system has been set up, the technology behind that, all the coding that you need, that's all done within the blockchain. You just need to press buttons to receive your rewards. So that is possible in this space because we now have blockchain technology and we also have smart contracts. So in this space of blockchain, there are two ways that you can actually earn rewards. So we can go back to the old banking system. So right now, your funds, my funds, they're with the bank, which means you don't have custody of them. So if the bank closed down, thankfully there are protections with the FCA. You have an amount that you can recover should your bank fail, but we're still in a position where we are at the mercy of the banks. And we have had situations in the past where banks have failed. And that's because the banks have custody. So when the banks have custody, you don't control your money, the banks control your money. And we know that when you go to the bank and say, can I take out £10,000 in cash? They will ask you 101,000 questions because they own your money. In reality, once you give them your money, in reality, you don't actually own it. They do. And they allow you to take out according to their limits, according to their rules. In the crypto space, we can get ourselves into a position where we don't have to ask a third party. We don't have to ask a middleman, can we take this out? Because you have custody. But even if you are a new person in crypto and you find that it's a lot to take in becoming non-custodial, you can start off in the custodial space if you choose to do so. But recognize that if you are in the custodial place, then you will know that a company or platform will hold your crypto for you. I.e., if you have your crypto in an exchange, that exchange holds it for you. It's like a bank holding your money. And there are some neobanks that will provide great rewards. But again, it's the neobank that's holding your money. A neobank basically is like Revolut. They offer cryptocurrency, but they also offer fiat currency as well and allow you to interchange. That's called a neobank. But then in crypto, we have something called non-custodial. This is where you hold the keys, you control your assets directly, there's no permission needed, and there's no middleman. And for me, why it matters is because the control equals responsibility. So that means now we need to become responsible for our keys. If you lose your keys, and the keys in this instance is, as an example, within the crypto space, your key represents 12 distinct words, as an example. Those 12 distinct words, you have to keep them forevermore, because that gives you access to your wallet. If you lose those 12 distinct words, then you lose access to your funds forever. So it does mean a lot of responsibility, but it also means true ownership. So it's a change in mindset. It's changing in how you operate. You do need to be a little bit organized. You do need to make sure that you give those words to trusted individuals, because when we leave this world and we pass on our assets to the next generation, they need to be able to access your assets as well. So there are things you need to put in place, and that can be done quite easily. But it's just having a different mindset, realizing if you're going to go into the non-custodial space, you then become responsible for your safe deposit box, your keys, which is gives you access to your wallets and to your funds. But for those who want to take it one step at a time, you can do custodial first and then non-custodial. So now I'm just going to talk quickly about what is DeFi. So DeFi is decentralized finance. And within the DeFi space, there are four main ways to make money. when you're making money, you're making cryptocurrency. So this is all in the crypto space. So I'm just substituting the word crypto for money because it is money, and I'll tell you why later. So there are 4 different ways. I'm sure people have heard of mining. So people mine Bitcoin, and they use computers to do that, hardware, and it's not very eco-friendly. And but these days, because of technology, there are new coins on the block that allow you to mine those coins using software. So it's very eco-friendly, and it's also very less expensive. Right now, I couldn't afford a Bitcoin mining machine because they have to use huge computers because we're so far down the line now. But with new coins and new technology, we can do everything on a computer, and we can mine coins, and we can earn passively while we sleep. Secondly, there's trading. I know everyone on here has definitely heard of trading. And I know there are people who can trade and do trade, and that's fine. But there are some of us who don't want to trade, don't want to learn how to trade. And these days we can combine blockchain and AI to do trading for you. And it does it for you 24/7. There's no emotions involved, and they have a very good win rate. So again, within the DeFi space, we also have trading. There's also something called staking. And staking is very similar to putting your money into a long-term savings plan where you get an interest maybe once every year, I don't know, or once every month, something along those lines. Staking is like that. So you have coins, you lock them away for a period of time. And whilst you lock, which means you're not going to sell them, while you lock them away for that period of time, the system rewards you for locking them away. So you get paid for not selling your asset effectively. And whilst your asset has been locked away for whatever period you choose, that asset generally increases in value. So you're storing an appreciating asset, and they're paying you in real time for storing that appreciating asset. And the last one is liquidity pools. I don't want to go into too detailed. I don't want to overwhelm people on this call. But when you put your money in the bank, as an example, the bank then uses your money and gives it to Mr. Jones to go and buy his house as a mortgage, and gives it to somebody else who's applied for a loan to pay off their credit card debt and so on. So you are providing liquidity to the bank. The bank then uses your money to give to other people, and they are charging them really high interest rates. Because of course, mortgage rates are, I don't know, 5-6% maybe. But you, as a saver, only get 1-2%, something like that. Well, in the crypto space, there's no if you provide liquidity into a pool, you get all that benefit. So you get the same benefit that the bank gets. So you'll get 30-40% per year because you're providing liquidity into a pool within the DeFi space. So that's hopefully a simple way to explain what a liquidity pool is. But these 4, mining, trading, staking, liquidity pool, are 4 easy ways to earn money in the DeFi space. The benefits of DeFi is that your money works for you and not the other way around. So you earn these rewards while you sleep. The second benefit is there's no middleman taking a slice, so you keep all the benefit. There's no third party taking a share of that, and there's no bank says no here, and there's no interference from the bank, and there's no special background needed. No racial divide, no age divide. Of course, if you're over 18, of course, no male female divide. If you can use a phone, you can participate, and you can start small. You don't have to start big. There are many opportunities where you can start from just $100 just to test it out and see how it works for you. So my last, almost there now, 4 questions. Is it safe? People ask. So it is safe if you are responsible enough to become the custodian and not the bank. If you trust yourself to look after your keys, then it's safe. Once you have the secret code to access your funds, so only you have the secret code to access your funds. So you need to learn how to protect your funds. And that's something that I can teach for those who are interested to know. And also recognizing that the book does stop with you, because you have to take responsibility for being the person that's going to be, if you're going to go for the non-custodial option, it's about taking responsibility. And for those, I know that in this space, many have been burnt before. So I thought I'd add this one final slide. For those who've been burnt before, there are things we can learn so it doesn't happen again. So first of all, transparency. Never jump onto something because of the hype. You need to understand how it works. It doesn't mean you have to understand the tech. It just means you need to know how they're making the money, as opposed to someone just saying, with this Bitcoin opportunity, you can earn 1% per week. How are they making that 1% is what you need to know. If you don't know how that works, you don't need to be in it. Number 2, it's also knowing the founders. Who are the founders? Are they visible? Can you see them? Are they visible people? Is there clear accountability? We don't want to get involved in anything that's faceless or where there are faceless promises. And also, the reason why we're having this today again is all about education. It's good to be a part of a community that believes in education, and it's important to educate yourself first before you participate. Understand first, make the decision second, and there should be no pressure or no rush. Because DeFi isn't about chasing quick wins. It's not about get rich quick overnight, but it can accelerate wealth, absolutely, without a doubt, but it's not overnight. It's about better systems and wiser choices. So the last thing before we go to questions is people say, can you spend crypto? And the answer is absolutely, because they are, it isn't locked away. It can be spent quickly. There are debit cards, like Visa card and MasterCard. They have partnerships with crypto banks, not just banks. They have partnerships with exchanges, and there are some crypto cards now you can even get without KYC. So you don't have to even be connected to an exchange. You can just register for a crypto card. It doesn't require KYC. It has like 100,000 spending limit per day, and they can be ready and available to spend within 5 minutes. And basically, these cards, you can just go to any supermarket, any restaurant that takes Visa or MasterCard. You can just swipe it like you do your phone, because you just add it onto your phone as Apple Pay or Google Pay. You tap, you swipe, online payments, and you use it. You can use it for wherever there's a Visa card or MasterCard sign. Basically, you can spend your crypto just like that. You send your crypto from your wallet to your debit card and then spend it instantly. There's no need or requirement for that to be converted to fiat and to go into your bank account. You can spend it straight away as Bitcoin, or spend it straight away as Ethereum, or spend it straight away as USDT. It can be spent as crypto. And that also is very, very easy to do. So my last slide before we have questions. Yes, my last slide is this look. This is not to entice you by any chance. This is just an example of what is achievable in the crypto space. So this is one platform that I'm part of, for example, and these results reflect what was achieved during this specific period, January to December 25. And the reason why I'm sharing that they are shared for transparency and education, because we all know that past results are not necessarily an indication of future, but it gives you an example of what's possible. So you can see here, the lowest return in any 1 month was 15.93, and that was in January 25. And the highest return was 18.32% in August 25. And that is these are real results that happened in the last 12 months with one of these DeFi, trading blockchain programs. So that's just to show you what's possible. So I'm going to stop talking now, because I've talked a lot, and I'm going to open up for questions, if that's okay. Feel free to ask any question. No questions is any question. He's going to be fair. Come on, someone. I know there's a question somewhere. Please unmute and ask a question. Has to be a question.
Right. So good evening. Is the Bitcoin the same as the Crypto coin?
Say that again, sorry.
Is the Bitcoin the same as the kind we're talking about?
So Bitcoin is one type of cryptocurrency. So there's millions of cryptocurrencies, but in terms of ones that have real value, or there's just like you can go to a register of let's have a look. There's something called an aggregator site, and one of them is called CoinMarketCap, and CoinMarketCap.com. On there, you can see about 17,000 different cryptocurrencies, and of those, Bitcoin is the first that came out in 2009. But there are many, many others as well. But Bitcoin is one of those cryptocurrencies, and that's the first of its kind. After that, there have been many since that time, and that was first introduced in 2009. So that is a cryptocurrency. It's just one of many. Is that okay?
I heard of it from last year. One of my son-in-law and my little then 5-year-old telling me about it, but because I didn't understand it,
oh right,
I just didn't.
It happened. I
mean,
we tried.
They tried to show me, but I didn't keep it up.
No, the kids know more than we do. That's the thing. That they found out about things when they're younger. We're now a lot older. We're just finding out about it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, kids know about it a lot earlier. I can see some hands raised. I thought I saw a hand raised, but maybe it's gone. Is there another question? Any question? I want some questions, please. I want you to challenge me. I need some questions. Has to be some questions. What do you want to know? How do we know that? Okay, I can see a question in the chat. If you don't want to say it out, you can say it in the chat. How do we know that we are joining legitimate companies? And that's a very good question. So, okay. So, how do we know that we're joining? Firstly, I would say, I have been scammed before in the past. I'll be very transparent here. So when I was green and I first started out in this space, I was with a company that supposedly paid you X amount per week. I can't remember what the frequency was, but and they paid out for a while and then it stopped. And then I realized that it was a scam. And even though when you realize it's a scam, they still chase you, telling you that you've got these X amount of thousands of pounds, thousands of Bitcoin waiting for you to collect. So so what I would say is, first of all, you need to know there needs to be real people behind it. So no faceless companies. So you need to know who's at the helm. So the CEO, they're people who have got a history, so you can see their previous employment, and you need to also they should be visible at events and so on. And also, if they have if they have funding from like venture capitalists, so you see where their funding comes from, for example, that's another good clue to understand whether they're genuine or not. Also, if you understand their how they make their money, are they just using fancy wares and disguising the fact that there isn't real money being made? It's really a Ponzi, i.e., they're just paying you from all the other people joining the company. That's another thing as well. And also, the good thing about DeFi versus one other thing that separates DeFi from custodial to non-custodial. If you're truly in the DeFi space, there is less risk because if you're in a project where your assets are always in your wallet. If you have to give your funds away to somebody, then of course you have to do greater due diligence. But if you're in a platform where your funds are always in your wallet and never leaving your wallet, i.e., never leaving your digital purse, so to speak, then that gives you a lot more comfort and you have a lot more reassurance that you're with a legitimate company. But there are with every project, you do need to do your research, of course. So knowing who's at the helm, knowing their track record, knowing what their business, how do they make their money, and also looking what protections you have. They're the four things that I would say that you need to make sure that you know first before you put any money into any project. That's what I would say. Hopefully that's answered your question sufficiently. I'm trying to go through there's quite a few coming up now. Pastor Joe and Pastor D. So that hopefully that's answers well enough. Second question is, how do you know which kind of Bitcoin is legit? So okay, so there's only one Bitcoin. So every cryptocurrency has a contract address. So you can't have I will say you can't have a fake Bitcoin. So if you want to check the genuine, so every Bitcoin, every currency, so it has one address only, a contract address. If you want to check the genuine contract address for a coin or a token, you can go to what they call an aggregator site. And one example of that is coinmarketcap.com. If you go to coinmarketcap.com, you can then call up Bitcoin. It will give you the contract address for that coin. You can call up any token on that site, by the way, and it will give you the contract address, which will normally be a series of letters and numbers. I can go into that actually and show you, but yeah, I can go into that and show you. I will do it. I will do it afterwards. Can you spend Bitcoin in your day-to-day winnings? Yes, you can. So first of all, it's very difficult to have a fake Bitcoin because once you buy Bitcoin, you buy it off an exchange anyway. The only way you could buy a fake coin was if you had to buy it from on what they call OTC, over the counter. Someone then because you have to trust the person you're buying from. So if you were to buy something on an OTC exchange, it's over the counter, peer to peer, then you might be duped. But if you want to make sure that you want to buy a genuine coin, always go through a legitimate exchange. So Revolut, Coinbase, Crypto.com, any Kraken, any legitimate exchange will you can only buy the genuine coin from that exchange. Spending Bitcoin, any you can spend Bitcoin as long as you have a debit or a debit card, like I mentioned, Master or Visa card. You can then, some cards will allow you to top up your card with Bitcoin, and then you can go and spend that in a supermarket. When you top up with Bitcoin, it'll be topped up at the value. So right now, the value I think is around about 90,000. So if you had, you don't have to have one Bitcoin, by the way, you can have a fraction. So if you had maybe 0.1 of Bitcoin, that'd be worth 9,000 US dollars. You could load that onto or some of that, not even all of it. You could load half of that, or a quarter of that, or whatever, onto a Mastercard or Visa card, and you do that by moving it from one wallet to another wallet. And that's another lesson, which I can definitely do another time if people want to know more. I do have one more slide, by the way. Well, I'll do that at the very end after these questions. You would do that. You'll send it to your wallet, and then you can spend it on your debit card. That's how you do it. Am I able to point in the right direction? I do. So I've got one more slide I want to show at the very end, or maybe I should show it now and then go back to the questions. Let me just share my screen again. I will share my screen one more time just to go for this last slide. So this slide was saying, if you want to know what's next, if you're interested to know how to maneuver in this space, I can help there. That's where I can help. I can offer solutions. I can offer initial consultations, training, and so on if people want that. And in order to access me to do that, you can book online a 15-minute Zoom using my cszoom.com, or you can scan that QR code there. That takes you through to my Linktree website that gives you a little bit of story about me, also gives you an opportunity to book a session with me, also gives you an opportunity to look at some of the things that I'm doing as well, and also access to MasterCard, Visa card to crypto. It gives you all that information. So if you just scan this QR code here, you will then be able to get that support that you need. I'm just going to go back to the chat while that's on the screen and answer the questions. So going back to the questions, thank you. Okay, can you wait? Oh, yeah. So any app that you recommend, is there any app? So Delali's asked that question. What do you mean by that? Any app I recommend for beginners? Do you mean exchange? Because an app is just, there are multiple apps out there that do all kinds of things. Are you looking for an app that will allow you to buy crypto? Or are you looking for an app that will allow you to do what? Do you want to expand on that question? Delali, is that right? Are you still here, Delali? Or you've written it down the bottom? Exchange, okay. Yeah, I do have exchanges. So I also, if you scan this QR code here that you see on the screen, you'll be taken to a web page, and at the bottom of that web page, I have a link that takes you through to exchanges. You can have a look at that. So I do have exchanges that I recommend. Yes. And with AI, will there be a high risk of scammers? Unfortunately, there are scammers everywhere, not just because of AI. They're just scammers, full stop. So what I would say there is just if you're involved with a project that's legit, and that project incorporates AI into its product, in its product offerings, then AI is not an issue. I mean, scammers operate in and out of AI. I don't think AI makes any doesn't change how scammers operate that way. There may be more opportunities to scam, but the point is, you need to be involved in an opportunity that's genuine. If you're involved in a genuine opportunity, and then that even has AI as part of its product offering, then you're fine, because that product has been. Don't forget, within the blockchain space as well, they do have audits. So if you're working with a project that's been fully audited and has come out with a clean audit, that also gives you comfort. So there are things that you can look for to protect yourself, and audit is part of it. So there are expert auditors in this space. One was called Certic, for example. One was called Hayes. And so if you want to get involved in this space, you can look to see whether they've had a Certic audit or whether they've had a Hayes audit, and have a look at that audit to see whether there are any recommendations, whether there are any weak points, and so on. Because but that's part of your research. When you're researching a project, you'll look at these things, and as long as they've come out with a clean bill of health, then you know that it's good to go. And if it hasn't got a clean bill of health, then you avoid it like the plague. I'm definitely able to point people in the right direction, and you can just book cszoom.com. We'll book a session on my online calendar, and I'm happy to talk further. I also have a free online course, by the way, which also, if you scan this QR code, that online course is like a beginner's course to cryptocurrency. So it basically walks you through each step. It also gives you a bit of history as well about Bitcoin, Ethereum. So it gives you a bit more depth, a bit more in-depth information about how cryptocurrency came about. And it also shows you how to set up your own exchange, how to buy crypto. It gives you all the information on my online course. There's two courses there, one that's called Beginner's Course to Cryptocurrency and one that's called Fast Track to 5K. But both those courses are free and they're online. And so you can access those courses as well if you want to. Next question, is Bitcoin the same value as a pound or dollar? So right now, Bitcoin, the value of Bitcoin has increased because of demand. So back in 2009, Bitcoin was like less than a dollar. I think about 40 cents actually. I think in 2011, Bitcoin was 40 cents. And then in 2012, it went up to about 100. And that's because the community was growing. But they always value cryptocurrency in dollars, by the way. But it doesn't. But to get the value, the pound value, you just need to use the current FX rate to get the pound equivalent. But so as the dollar moves against a pound, the value will change. So say for example, right now it's about 90,000 USDT. I don't know what the. Let me just go to Google. So 90,000. Oops, $90,000 is roughly, is it about £80,000 maybe? Just asking Google. $90,000. Oh, there we go. It's 65,000-ish pounds. So you can value Bitcoin in pounds if you choose to, but most exchanges will value it in dollars. But you just need to take the exchange rate to get it in pounds. I hope that answers the question. And obviously the price will go up and down because of demand. And the reason why the price is so high these days, by the way, is because big institutions like BlackRock, like JP Morgan, like Goldman Sachs have bought massive amounts of Bitcoin. I think there's an article I saw last week or week before where it said BlackRock had bought 600,000, was it 600,000 or 60 million, whatever, Bitcoin in that week. And that's why the price is rocketing, because now they're filling up their boots and then selling it on to their high net worth individuals as ETF, which is an exchange traded fund. So that's why Bitcoin, the demand for Bitcoin has increased. And because it's scarce, there's a limited amount of Bitcoin. That's why the value is going through the roof. Is there a limit to how much you can invest? Depends on what project you want to invest in. But I'm in some projects, for example, where you can start from just $120. Some projects you should never invest more than you can afford to lose. Anyway, never invest something that you need, to buy groceries and so on. But most of them don't have a maximum, but you do whatever you feel comfortable with. But there are minimums, yes, definitely minimums. And the minimum at the moment for one of them that I'm in is the lowest is $120. And everything's always in dollars in the crypto space, but you can always convert it to pounds. So $120 is about £100. Yeah. I'm just going to go into CoinMarketCap just to show you how you can look at cryptocurrencies if you want to have a bit more. We're on the hour, just over the hour now. So if this was meant to be 1 hour, by the way, we are a bit over the hour. So if people want to go, I won't get upset. But if you still want to, if you're happy to just have a look at this one more thing, and if there are no more questions, that's good. But let me just try again. Sorry. Here we go. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
No.
No.
All right.
No.
Okay.
Let's see it now.
You can see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. By the
Yeah.
way, just in case, this is if you scan the QR code, this is what you're going to see. By the way, this is what you're going to see when you scan the QR code, and these are the online courses that I mentioned that are free. So this is the beginner's guide to cryptocurrency. This is the fast track to 5K if you wanted to do that. And down here, someone mentioned exchanges. So this link here will take you to a list of exchanges that I use, and this takes you to the crypto debit cards that I also use. And then, of course, if you want to book something to have a bit more, you've got more questions, or you want to have more an in-depth conversation, you can click here to book a 15-minute consultation. I do charge for my coaching sessions, of course. It's what I do as a business. So, but you can start with a 15-minute consultation, and if you want to have more, that's fine. You can book a 1-hour coaching session. So the QR code that I shared will take you to that. If you haven't got the QR code, I'll post this link anyway in the WhatsApp group, if that's okay, so people can access it from there, if that will help. And the last thing I want to show you before I disappear, unless there's more questions, is I just want to show you how you can check cryptocurrencies that you don't get scammed. So CoinMarketCap is what they call an aggregator site. And that basically gives you access to multiple cryptocurrencies. It gives you, that's another way of checking projects as well, because once they get onto CoinMarketCap, most of them have been vetted and they have to pass certain criteria. In order for them to get onto exchanges, they have to be vetted as well. So these are really important things to look out for. So it's sort of trying to get you into a scheme, but that coin, for example, you can't find it anywhere. You haven't got the contract address. It's not on any of the aggregator sites. It's not on any exchanges. I would run to the hills because it's not verified or validated. So coins that are of value, they should be on an aggregator site somewhere. So you can see here, this is the CoinMarketCap is one of the most most established aggregator site. You can see here that Bitcoin is the number one coin in terms of market cap. Market cap basically means the circulation value that's out there. So the value, total value of all Bitcoins that's out there, within the population. The Bitcoin is number one, and you can see here the price is $88,000 at the moment. The market cap here is 1.7 trillion. Ooh, huge. And then Ethereum is next, and that's got 360. Is that trillion as well? Or is that billion? Sorry, what's 9 zeros? I can't remember. I should know. I'm a mathematician. Anyway, 9 zeros, whatever that is. A million is 6 zeros. Trillion is, yeah, so it's trillion. 9 zeros, trillion. So yeah. And then Tether is the next one. So Tether is what you call a stable coin. So some people, if you don't want to, because Bitcoin and Ethereum are volatile, the price can move up and down depending on sentiment. But Tether is what they call a stable coin, and the value of Tether is linked to the dollar. So if people want to have crypto but don't want to be exposed to the volatility, sometimes they take a portion of the coin once they've made value on it and convert it into Tether, and they spend the Tether. So this is is number 3 in terms of market cap. It's quite a well-used coin. It's 186 trillion market cap and so on. So if you wanted to know whether a coin is genuine, you can just go to this site here, and you can click on it, and it gives you all the information that you need. I can't go into that in detail now, but but you can just play with this site. It gives you the price since from the beginning of time till now. It gives you the contract address. It gives you talks about the community. Anything you want to find out about this particular coin, you can just click on these different tabs here, and it gives you loads of information. You could spend all day here, really, if you wanted to. But this is the place to go. So coinmarketcap.com. If you write that down, that's where you need to go to find the true contract address for any cryptocurrency. So I'm going to stop sharing for now and just ask: are there any more final questions before I close tonight? And thank you for joining, by the way. And hopefully you got. I do have one more poll to do before I close. If you don't mind doing this final poll. Start it again. Poll. Here we go. The final poll is this one here. Can you see this final poll? Can you see it? Yes, you can. So the question is: after today, after this training, what would you like to do? Would you like to watch a short explainer video, learn at your own pace, join another session, or just stay curious for now? I'm just intrigued to see what the answer would be. Do you mind going ahead and just completing the poll? And if people do want another session, I can do another one, by the way. I'll need to prepare it because I haven't got one ready to hand, but I can obviously do one. That's sort of next step if people want that. Right, it's like even, Stephen so far. 42% have replied. Can I have some more? Can we get 75 again like before? 50% so far. 57%. 60%. 64%. Almost there. 67%. A few more to apply. Maybe going to get coffee or something, or a cup of tea. Let's see if there are any more questions. We're stuck at 67%. Are there any more answers, or should I end the poll? Any more responses? Oh, a few more. Any more? I think we're getting to the end. Okay. Right, I'm going to end the poll. Going, gone. Okay, right. So these are the results. So it's very close between watching a short explainer video, or they haven't got it yet, or joining another session. So I'm happy to do another session, by the way. I can also find a short video as well to share. It's good to know what people want. So I can do another session, which will focus more about the intricacies of cryptocurrency and so on, and just to help people have a better understanding, and such as like CoinMarketCap, for example, how to check contract addresses, a little bit more about wallets, that kind of stuff, so you actually know the practicalities of actually becoming involved in cryptocurrency. This is very high level, of course, but I can do one that's a bit more less high level and more practical. That might help people to understand what they need to do if they wanted to get involved. But thank you again for joining this evening. If there are no more questions, I hope everyone got value today and had a better idea, understanding of cryptocurrency, knowing that particularly that most people on here are quite new. So hopefully you've got a better idea of understanding of cryptocurrency, and you can make decisions going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure whether
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol.
It's my
Thank you,
pleasure.
Carol.
Thank you, Carol.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Excellent.
Carol. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you too.
Thank you.
Right, I'm going to close. I'm going to stop recording. Okay.